This is a lot more than I expected. I really appreciate it. Hillsdale County, the city of Hillsdale, is the best place ever. I just put this event up on Facebook, and Corey Champion was like, can I do all of this sound for free? Yes, please. Thank you, Corey. Let's see. Penny Swan is live streaming for us. Thank you, Penny. Thank you, Larry and my mom, for helping me set all this up. Let's see. Oh, High Altitude Productions is streaming, or gonna record it and post it up later. And then thank you to Mary Hill, the library director, who let us do this. Is this an illegal event? Have we broken 100? This is two groups of 55, right? Whatever. Yeah. Thank you to the candidates and their families. Oh, they're right here. Let's introduce them. Andy Welden, Jonesville native, very deep roots in Hillsdale. Thank you. Please feel free to take a seat or stand, whatever you want. Andrew Fink, Hillsdale lawyer. Find him at Rough Draft a lot. Daren Wiseley, Osseo native, Hillsdale Osseo, and our very own Hillsdale Mayor, Adam Stockford. What's that? Yeah, we're gonna start with prayer or pledge. How do you do that? Which is first? Prayer first. We have Pastor Mike Prince from Hillsdale Nazarene. Thank you.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, I'm thankful, Lord, for the AAAD team here tonight. I pray, Lord, you'll bless them and help them to continue to be people of integrity, honesty, that their answers would not be solicited anyway, but simply from their hearts. We love these folks, and we're thankful that they've chosen to run and to help be a part of healing and ministry going forth in Hillsdale. Again, Lord, we pray that you'll bless the conversations. Help us, Heavenly Father, to pay attention to each candidate individually and help us to learn more about them and help them to be able to share more about themselves rather than to tell us about somebody else. We love them. Thank you for allowing us to be here tonight to support them and Hillsdale. Thank you for Joshua as well. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Pastor Mike. We appreciate it. Thank you also to the candidates and their families. This is a public service from them, so thank you for putting yourself out there and going through all this stress for us so that we can have great representatives. All right, we are going to start with opening statements. They're going to have 3 minutes. You guys? Pledge. Oh, pledge. Should have thought about that. We've got a lot of t-shirts with them. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, the candidates are going to have 3 minutes to give opening statements. I'll tell you more about the debate as it goes, but they'll have about a minute if their name is invoked to give a response. If you would like to submit audience questions, which we're going to have time for near the end, then we're going to try to save a lot of time for that. Please text them to me at 517. Everyone get out your phones and then put them away forever. Phones are ruining our society. 517-398-3716. Let me put this on silent so I don't get blown up. 2 sentences, please. Or 3. Okay. Yes? 517-398-3716. Oh, also, I'm Josh Palladino. I host It's the People's Choice, where all of these fine gentlemen came on for 45-minute interviews. They're fantastic. They are so knowledgeable. No matter who wins this primary, we're going to have a great candidate, and we can be very thankful for that as Republicans. So let's start with Andy Welden. All right, who's calling me?
Hang on a second. Take your mic if you go to the podium.
You know what? I'll pass him off for this.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome. My name is Andy Welden, and for those of you who don't know me, I'm a lifelong resident of Hillsdale County. I'm the youngest of two children of Bob and Joyce Welden. My sister, Sally Ann Gardner, is here. Thanks for coming. And her and her husband, Gene, live in Jonesville. We were blessed, as I said, to be raised by loving, hardworking parents, Bob and Joyce Welden. And I'm a graduate of Jonesville High School and also Michigan State University. I'm blessed to have three healthy children, Stuart and Scott and Krista, and Stuart and Scott are here. Thanks again for coming. And they have blessed me with 5 grandchildren that are healthy, and we are just really blessed. Excuse me. My life experiences have prepared me to be your next state representative. As a self-employed businessman, as a landlord, a tenant, a township supervisor, a county commissioner, and then a director on the State Soybean Association board. I have traveled nationally and internationally and have represented Michigan and the United States in other countries. I will proudly strive to represent you, the people of Branch and Hillsdale County, with honesty and integrity. My love and passion for this area, passion for my family, and passion for the community will be the core of my public service. As your state representative, thank you kindly.
Yeah, you can bring up your mic. Andrew Fink.
I don't know if this mic's going to fit in here. Will it, Corey?
It's a little tighter.
There we go. Well, thank you very much to Josh for putting this event together and for hosting it. I know he's going to do a great job moderating, as he did with all of the interviews that he just talked about on the radio station. And thanks ever so much to each and every person who's here to be an engaged citizen tonight, hear from the candidates up close and in person. It's just awesome to see all of you here, so thanks a lot, and I hope that you learn everything that you wanted to from all of us tonight. This being my opportunity to tell you why I'm running for state representative, I'm going to start by saying I think this is an extremely, extremely important year in our politics. Since I started this campaign, I've been saying that Governor Whitmer, Dana Nessel, Jocelyn Benson have been trying to push the same leftist agenda that you see nationally from people like Nancy Pelosi and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Bernie Sanders in Lansing. And now I think everybody's sort of caught up to that fact that we've been dealing with the COVID shutdown, but that phenomenon was already in place. And I have 5 kids, ages 10 and younger. And it's important to me that they inherit from my generation and the generation or two above it an America that's stronger and more committed to its founding and the principles of its founding, that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that we have a Constitution that allows us to self-govern ourselves according to those principles. That's the America that I want my kids to inherit, not one where we do say things like we're going to defund the police, or we say things like socialism is the economic system of the future. That's not the America that I want my kids to inherit, and I decided that I needed to offer my opinion about these things now, or else by the time I got around to trying to get involved in elected politics, my kids would already be grown up and they'd be dealing with whatever it was. So that's the motivation for me running. That's what I see as the basic thing happening in this election cycle in 2020. And the experience and skills that I bring to this, I'm a Marine Corps officer. I spent over 3 years on active duty and a few more years in the reserves learning how to improvise, adapt, and overcome, adjust to changing circumstances, be mission-oriented even as those circumstances change and surprise us. As a township attorney, I've been exposed to many areas of law that are relevant to to life as a legislator every single day, learn how to persuade people who don't agree with me now, learn how to persuade people who are on my side that they need to make a hard decision and come along with me. And I think that those experiences have given me the skills that are necessary for being a good representative from day one, and that's been recognized by groups like Right to Life of Michigan, who have endorsed only me in this race, groups like the Police Officers Association of Michigan, whose endorsement I'm very proud to have in this cycle, as the conversation about police nationally has been so ugly, and people like Ken Kurtz and other community leaders who have recognized that I'm ready for this job right now, ready to be a strong leader in Lansing right now. I've sued Governor Whitmer once. I'm happy to do it again if she issues us all tickets tonight. And that's the fight that I'm ready to have, and I'm more prepared for it than any other candidate. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Daren Wiseley.
Yeah, grab yours. Grab mine.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm Daren Wiseley. I'm here to fight for liberty and defend the Constitution. For those of you who don't know it yet, I'm sure you'll know by the end of the day that I'm the most conservative, most qualified, most principled candidate in this race. I'm a lifelong district resident. The reason I'm running, we all know that the 58th district is a hard red district. Republicans pretty much always win, knock on wood. But we don't just deserve a Republican up there. We deserve an actual conservative Republican. That's why I'm running. Time and time again, establishment Republicans run and promise the world only to deliver nothing. I'm sick and tired of that. Think about it. What has the establishment done to protect life, to protect the Second Amendment, and our other liberties? What have they done to be fiscally responsible or lower taxes? Absolutely nothing. The people of our district deserve better. They deserve one of us, and they deserve a true conservative that's going to fight for us, and that's what I represent. A little about me. As I said, I'm a lifelong district resident. I was born in Coldwater, but lived almost all my life here in Hillsdale County. My family's been here my whole life. My parents are here today. My grandparents are. They're all a part of this community. And that's why this community, one of the reasons this community means so much to me, my family's here. If I did something wrong, I'd have to look them in the eye. Some of my best friends are here, lifelong friends. I have to look all of them in the eye and say, hey, I'm going to serve you guys. So if I screw something up, that would be really close personally to me. It's not just a stepping stone, someplace I'm going to show up at, use to my own political ambition and move on. My family's a blue-collar family. My dad is the grounds crew supervisor at Hillsdale College. My mom's a dental hygienist. While we weren't privileged when it comes to wealth and status, I was privileged to grow up in a Christian home where I was taught faith, integrity, and work ethic, which I'm carrying with me today and in this campaign. In elementary school, I went to Will Carleton Academy, and then Hillsdale High School, 8th grade, where I graduated from there. There I played varsity sports and made a lot of great friendships that I still have today. And I was also an active member in Hillsdale United Brethren Church as youth group, as a leader. I've attended that church since 5th grade, and I'm still proud to say that's a church I still go to. Today, my Christian faith is very important to me, and it's the lens I look through every decision, and I don't shift my I don't shift my religion to fit my politics. My politics fit in with my faith. Thank you. For undergrad, I went to Indiana Tech. I majored in business. Am I out of time?
That's time.
All right, well, I'm going to take on the Socialist Democrats and the Republican Rhinos, and I'm the only one committed to doing both. Thank you.
Thank you, Daren. Adam Stockford.
Hello, folks. This is really nice to see you all here tonight. And like the rest of the candidates, I want to thank you all for coming out and being engaged. A lot of you know me. I'm Adam Stockford. I'm your mayor. I I was born about a half mile down the road in Hillsdale Hospital. About 30 years later, my boy was born about a half mile down the road in Hillsdale Hospital. As a matter of fact, my dad was born in Hillsdale Hospital. So when I say that I'm Hillsdale to the core, I think you guys will trust me on that one. My dad's one of the reasons I'm running for this race. You know what he was? He was a factory worker. And then he owned a couple of failed bars, and then he was a carpenter. But what I saw from him is no matter what was going on in his life, he woke up every day and he went to work and he worked hard because he was a man. And that made an impact on me. My mom's here tonight. Same story with her. She was a factory worker. She worked her way off the factory floor into the human resources office. Now she's the human resources director for an enormous multimedia company. When I look at Hillsdale, that's what I see. Hardworking, blue-collar people. When I got out of high school, I went to work in the industrial park over here. I made shower heads at Alson's, accelerator cables. Then I was a carpenter. I didn't get into politics until later in my life. I was not born and bred to do this. I did it because I love this community. I first ran for council because a faction in the city of Hillsdale wanted to pass a uniform city income tax and take more money out of your pockets. That's why I ran for office. That's why I'm still running for office today. Because the legislature has been sitting on their hands, and they think the best way to go about this shutdown is to once again advocate their power to a different branch of the government, and take the governor to court. Now the legislature, they can sit on their hands and wait for months while this process goes through the courts. But your average business owner in Hillsdale cannot wait. They couldn't wait 2 weeks when we were shut down the first time, and they sure the hell can't wait 2 months. I've got an aunt, all my family's small business owners. My stepdad's business is still not open. It's been closed for over 100 days. I've got an aunt who owns a restaurant. It's still not open. Guess what? She can't operate at half capacity. She'll lose money if she operates at half capacity, so she can't open her doors. So those are the people I'm running for, and I'm running for all of you. I was a city councilman. I'm a mayor. I've worked in workforce development for a number of years. I've worked with many, many, many businesses in Hillsdale County and Branch County and Lenawee County and Jackson County, and I know what's going on in this district. I know where we're at economically. I know where we need to be economically, and I know how to get us there. So that's just a brief introduction of me. I also like to state the fact that I was an undefeated boxer. The reason I say that is because I love a good fight, and that's what we need in Lansing right now, fighters.
It's time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. I'm getting a lot of questions from you guys, so I'm going to try to keep my questions as short as possible, and I'm also going to keep them, they're very general, so just we can get a sense of where the candidates are at, and you can ask them more specific questions. They're going to have 2 minutes to answer these questions. We're going to start with the roads. Our governor ran to repair the roads.
It's on.
Yeah, we can just sit for this. There's too much time in transition, probably. How can the Michigan legislature establish a plan to repair Michigan's roads and keep them repaired? We'll start with Andrew this time.
Okay, thanks, Josh. The Michigan legislature already had a plan to fix the roads, and that's a problem that's been decades and decades in the making. Is that good? Okay. It's been decades and decades of the legislature kind of kicking the can down the road, deciding not to fund infrastructure because infrastructure funding is boring and somebody else can always get to it if you don't get to it until it's too big of a problem to fix without making real sacrifices. And the legislature's plan was to, over the course of time, invest hundreds of millions more dollars in general fund spending in the roads every year until it increased to an increase of about $500 million. That was a good plan. That plan was in place. That plan was working, and it was adding capacity to our road improvements at a rate we could actually keep up with. If you flood the market with new contracts for fixing roads all in one construction season, which is half a year in Michigan, then what you're going to wind up with is inflated prices and almost no more productivity because you're not all of a sudden going to have twice as many road contractors. So a gradual plan to get us back on track on infrastructure was the correct plan. It was already in place. Governor Whitmer ruined it by pretending she could get a 45-cent gas tax through, which was such a joke she couldn't even get a Democrat in the legislature to introduce it. And then instead of flexing at all, having any ability to improvise and adapt, She simply decided to borrow $3 billion that my kids are going to be paying off when they're my age. So that's a terrible plan. Responsible, increasing in general fund spending, making cuts to other areas, which is a hard thing to do, but necessary if you don't want to raise taxes and you want to get something done. That was the correct plan. That's what we should get back to.
Thank you. Daren? Also, let me know if you want me to restate the question.
What to do about the roads?
Yes.
Basic premise of it? Okay. Yeah, so the gas tax, obviously a horrible idea. I oppose any new taxes, including that. The problem with the road situation is the inefficiency in government, the waste, the abuse in the entire system. And it's going to lead to not having good roads. And you look at everything going on in our state right now. Look who's getting the good roads. Look at Ripon. One of my best friends lived on Ripon. How long did that take to fix? A couple years? Look at the roads by the college. They're always getting new roads. Why? The lobbyists are up there. They're pulling the strings for them. The squeaky wheel gets the grease. And it's the same thing in our road system. People in Detroit, people in Lansing, they bark the loudest. We're the last to get anything. So make sure you get someone who's actually going to fight for you and fight for your community and not just pat the back of the lobbyists who got him up there.
Thank you. Adam?
Well, as the only candidate that's sitting up at this table that's actually fixed a bunch of roads, I'll happily answer this question. And if you guys think that Lansing is going to come swoop down and fix our local roads, if we just give them a few more dollars, I have a steamboat to sell you. It's in Arizona. The issue with the roads is that the roads that matter most to us are local roads. And the people who are responsible for fixing the local roads are local government. So the fact of the matter is, we're not going to be able to fix any local streets until, as both of my opponents have already stated, we start cutting waste at Lansing and we start redistributing that to local governments through things like revenue sharing. Ideally, the best situation that I could come up with would be to just allow us to keep more of the money that we have in our communities in the first place. Then local governments can handle their own local roads. And guess what? If Detroit decides that they want to be wasteful with the revenue sharing and they want to renovate Joe Louis Arena instead of putting it into their streets, that's not my problem. My problem is the 58th District. And I'm very confident that the local governments here, with the right amount of funding that's necessary, will put it into infrastructure because I've seen it. And once again, you're talking to a guy that helmed 13 miles of road construction in a city of 48 total miles. And I could tell you how we did it. It would take quite a while, but we had to make cuts, we had to make changes, we had to redistribute money from where it was at, and we had to go and we had to ask a couple of our institutions to chip in a little bit. But guess what? We're a tight community, so we didn't mind doing that, and they didn't mind doing that. So, short answer.
Thank you, Adam. Andy Welden.
Yes, I'm quite pleased with the roads in Hillsdale and Branch County. If you compare them to Calhoun County and some of the other counties, I think our road commissions do a pretty decent job. I'm not saying that we can't make them better. This, with the COVID on the front burner, it's going to be tough to address roads. To say I'm going to go up to Lansing and tip the boat over and we're going to fix the roads, that's probably not realistic. We know we're going to be looking at a tight budget. I've worked as a commissioner on the county budget for several years, and you don't distribute money to one program without taking it from another. And I'm looking forward to actually seeing the budget. I don't know where there's fat and where there isn't, but it does need addressing, and I know roads are a priority. I don't have a silver bullet. We did have the Proposition 1 that got too many things tacked to it, and I agree, I was glad it failed. I'm not an opponent of additional taxes. We need to examine what we have and do the best with what we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Our next is just going to be a general question about faith and family. Should the Michigan legislature do more to support religious liberty, free speech, and two-parent households? If so, how? We'll start with Daren. You can get up if you'd like.
So we need to celebrate family. Family is the institution that the civil society is built on. And we should celebrate parents, grandparents, community. Community is a huge part of what we got going that's great down here in the 58th District. And it's unfortunate because there's a lot of shaming, envy in the last several decades of the family, and it's led to the familial breakdown. A lot of broken homes, and there's a place of pain. But we need to focus on building a community, on building families, protecting them legally, cutting red tape to allow families to support themselves, to support their families, but the incentives right now just aren't there. I mentioned earlier on how faith is very, very important to me, so I won't belabor that, but free speech, that's another huge issue right now. The First Amendment is under attack, and I'll tell you where it's worst: college campuses. I was going to get into this. I didn't get to in my intro. I guess I was too long-winded. But when I was in law school down at Indiana University, big state school, first week down there, indoctrination week, telling you you're a bad person for being white. They're pushing a radical Marxist agenda. They don't listen to opposing views. And that's the problem. These schools are indoctrination stations. Instead of saying, hey, here's one point of view, here's another, choose for yourself, they're shoving one thing down your throat. They're not allowing free speech, and I don't think that's right. And I would work to pass legislation, cafe-type legislation like they have in Kentucky, which would bolster free speech on college campuses. And then last, religious liberty goes into that question. Our religious freedom is also under attack. I mean, when they tell you can't go to church, I don't know what else to say in terms of your religion's under attack, but that should be, for any Christians here or for anyone who just cares about the Constitution, saying you can't go to church should be a red line in the sand, no questions asked. So I 100% support families, I 100% support faith, and as is an essential theme of my campaign, I 100% support the Constitution.
Thank you, Daren. Adam.
Good statement, Daren. I agree with a lot of it. Faith is a personal thing, and I support the freedom to practice your faith in government. As mayor, I brought prayer back to City Hall. First time in 20 years that we prayed at City Hall. And we make a point to try to do it before every council meeting. And before I came here today, I prayed. It's because I know that I'm a flawed person. I know that I'm a sinner, and I'll readily admit it. And I need faith and guidance. I don't make any decision without going to the Lord first. And He knows what my intentions are. As far as family goes, I have a family. I have children. I know as a father that it's tough today to keep a family together. But I think if you look into the communities that are, Hillsdale's not one of them. We have lovely family institutions here. We have great primary schools. We have the things locally that we need to do to help families succeed. But when you look at the families that are broken, they've all got one thing in common, and it's almost always poverty and drug abuse. So if we want to strengthen families, we need to work on strengthening our economy, and we need to also look at local courts finding new ways to combat drug abuse. And one good way to do that, as these gentlemen were speaking before about defunding the police, is to put money into the local police departments, like our own sheriff's department and our city police, which has always been a huge priority of mine. As far as religious liberty, I like Daren and like the rest of the candidates, I'm 100% behind it. Those promises that are bestowed upon us come from our Creator. They are inalienable, and there's absolutely nothing that the government can do to step on top of those. And if they tell you that there's something that they can do, like they've been telling us for months now, they're lying to you, so don't believe them.
Thank you, Adam. Andy Welden.
Thank you. As you can tell, there isn't a candidate up here that family isn't a priority or important to them. I'm fortunate that my family all lives close by, but also they had the experience My oldest son went to Kalamazoo and worked in another company for several years. And then when he started to have children, he decided he missed the farm, he missed the roots and the family values that we have in this district, and moved back to this area. Excuse me. And the same goes for my other son. If you can't tell, I'm proud of my family. Excuse me. I'm done.
Thank you, Andy. Andrew Fink.
Thanks, Josh, and thanks, Andy. Yeah, family is extremely important. I don't think that there's a better indicator of likelihood of kind of measurable success in life than whether a person grows up in a stable two-parent household. And so, keeping that in mind, that's basically a cultural value that our politics has undermined since probably the 1930s, when we started to incentivize single parenthood rather than marriage by penalizing women who decided to get married. Their welfare benefits were cut, that kind of thing. Whether you like the welfare benefit in the first place or not, it certainly doesn't make any sense to make it to disincentivize a person from getting married through a government funding program. So that kind of attitude did a lot to undermine our culture of marriage in the United States, and obviously there's been a lot of other things roiling it for the last several decades. There are bills in the Michigan legislature now to protect religious freedom, to protect families. I already mentioned I've got 5 kids, and that thinking about the success that my children's generation is going to have is basically the motivation for getting into this race at this time. That includes college campuses. There is a bill in the Michigan legislature now to prevent universities from restricting freedom of speech by penalizing might not be the term that you would think of here, but basically by taking away the stamp of approval for a student group who tries to do something that the university doesn't like. And that kind of bill is a good first step, but there's basically no higher priority than religious freedom. And so there's no stop that I would, there's no end to the protection that religious freedom deserves. If somebody says you can't go to church, you have to. So that's my attitude towards it.
Thank you, Andrew. All right, the next question, we're probably going to talk about this a lot tonight, but COVID. Are the governors, oops, that's your time. Oh no, I lost it. Has the governor acted appropriately or inappropriately in her response to the virus? Particularly, has she exceeded her constitutional authority? And I would also like to hear the candidates talk about the prudence of these policies in relation to the medical facts about the virus. A lot of candidates are just saying, well, it's unconstitutional. I want to hear, have you studied the science? Are we following it? And we will start, I think we're on to Adam now? Yes.
Yes.
2 minutes.
Josh, I'm not a doctor. I'm an elected official. I truly believe with all my heart that it is not my job to police all you folks' health. I think that's your own responsibility, and I think you're all grown-ups, and I think you can handle it. So I think as far as the medical side of it, I think you can do the research yourself and make your own decisions. Has the governor acted unconstitutionally? Absolutely. From the very get-go, from the first time that she told a business that it needed to close its doors for a day, she acted unconstitutionally. But I think we're past that conversation. I think we have passed the point where it even matters whether it's constitutional or not. I think it is morally repugnant and evil to tell people that they cannot honestly earn $1 to support their family. We were taught in this country, and this is what disgusts me the most, is we were taught from young kids that the American dream was to own your own business, was to work hard, be your own boss, have your own house. Guess who suffered the most under these mandates from the governor? The self-sufficient people who were taught their entire life that that was the thing that you were supposed to do, to not rely on anyone else. To have the government step in and shut those people down and shut small businesses down and send them home, it's absolutely disgusting. It's beyond anything that I thought we would ever be experiencing today. And I've done what I could to fight back against it. I see there's a lot of stuff going on, things like Unlock Michigan, and I think that everybody that's involved in that is a very awesome thing. I appreciate it. But we tried the strongly worded letter to the governor. We tried that all the way back in April, and it got us nowhere. The time for the strongly worded letters to the governor has long passed us. It's time to...
Thank you, Adam. That's time. Andy.
Thank you. That's hard to follow and hard to disagree with. It's just, we never thought we would be in this position in the United States, or where we would have our freedoms of business and to operate telling us we can. I think initially we accepted, we didn't know what a pandemic was or how serious it was. When I see the numbers of different studies, it doesn't seem that serious. I almost want to get it and increase my immune system. I'd rather have it while I'm healthy than to wait till I'm not healthy and then get it. I think we're all going to end up getting it eventually, and probably more than once. It's not going to go away in 1 year, 2 years. It'll adapt and be a little different strain than it was when it first came. I have much more fear of losing our freedoms and freedom to operate than I do of the COVID.
Thank you. Andrew.
When this thing came about, immediately I started getting questions as an attorney who practices constitutional law. Well, what portion of this is constitutional, what portion of it isn't? And by April, I had joined a legal team. Actually, I put together a legal team to sue the governor for violating the due process and equal protection rights of one of my clients who owned a second home and was told she couldn't travel to it while her co-owners from Indiana could. How does that make any sense? Well, it doesn't make any sense. And when the government does something that doesn't make any sense, it fails even rational basis review, which is the lowest kind of review that courts subject the government to. So no, I don't think that everything she's done is constitutional. But even if you thought that stuff was constitutional early on, at this point, we have a governor who says she can declare an emergency for any reason. It could be that it's too sunny, or it could be that it's too cloudy. That it lasts for as long as she says it lasts, and that allows her to impact your rights under every other statute in the state code for, again, the entire length of however long that emergency is. And getting to the science question, not because I think it impacts whether what she's doing is unconstitutional or not, but just to lay out what that would mean if she were right about that. I just read today at the Mackinac Center's website, Capital Confidential, that the fastest a vaccine has ever been researched and approved is 4 years. And there is no coronavirus. There are other coronaviruses out there besides this new one that we're dealing with now, but there is no vaccine for any other coronavirus. So the hope that we do something we've never done and get a vaccine for a coronavirus twice as fast as we've ever gotten a vaccine together would mean you have a vaccine in 2 years. So waiting for that to get back to life where citizens learn the information for themselves and then make informed decisions in their own lives, that's not going to work. So my take on the science on it is, I'm like Adam, I'm not a scientist, but letting all of us take the information in as we can and then make intelligent, informed decisions as citizens in this country, that's the right approach, because there is no one-size-fits-all policy for this.
Right on time. The last question for me is going to be general about taxes. Oh, I'm sorry, Daren. I thought we started with you. We started with Adam. Daren.
Thanks, Joshua. Remember when it was 14 days to stop the spread? What was that, 120 days ago, maybe more? Funny how that works. Look, the goal of government is to protect life, liberty, and property. That is it. It's not to be our nanny. Grown adults can take care of themselves. And I agree with what Mayor Stockford said, so I'm not going to belabor his points. He did a very good job explaining his view, so I don't have anything I disagree with there. But you have to look at it. Joshua talked about the science of it, and of course I'm not a doctor either. But what about the economics? No one's talking about that. UNICEF said that 1.2 million children have died as a result of the shutdowns worldwide. 1.2 million. What kind of a society sacrifices the young to protect the old? That's all I gotta say.
Thank you, Daren. Sorry about that. Taxation. Should the Michigan legislature expand, contract, or replace the grant system that Mayor Stockford mentioned in relation to the roads? And more specifically, should Michigan, the Republican legislature, I'm pretty sure, promised us a couple of years ago that they were going to do everything they can to phase out the income tax. Should we still continue that, to pursue that goal? Are we back to Andy?
We can be. Thank you. I like the idea of lower taxes. Income tax is probably one of the fairer taxes. We know we need revenue if we want government to do things that we can't do on our own. But phase out the income tax, probably not. Lower it, you got my vote.
Thank you, Andy. Andrew.
The only problem I have with the idea of phasing out the income tax is that what you're implying is you're going to be doing some other kind of taxes while you're phasing this thing out over some period of time, and at some point somebody's going to decide, well, maybe we phased enough, or we need to put this thing back to 4% or 4.1%, I think is what it is now, because this thing we didn't expect happened. So I would be more open to eliminating the income tax and focusing instead on probably a higher sales tax. And the reason I like that better is because all of us have more choice over how much we interact with the tax, how much taxes we pay based on how we decide to do our consuming. If you're somebody who wants to consume a lot, then you pay more in taxes, and you don't get taxed simply for being a productive person and working and making money. So I'm not against the idea of shifting our tax burden to other forms of taxation than the income tax, but a vague idea of doing a gradual decrease of the income tax without knowing exactly how we're going to guarantee that you don't wind up with an overall higher tax burden. I would need to see the details before I thought that was automatically a good idea, because as a friend of mine likes to put it, when you have a sales tax and a property tax and an income tax, well, then you're France. And we're already there. I would want to guarantee that at the end of the day, we're not going to be more French than we are today when it comes to taxes.
Thank you, Andrew. So that's it for me. We're going to throw it now to the candidates. Oh, okay. I'm getting to it. I'm getting ahead of myself.
So I fundamentally disagree with Mr. Welden that income tax is one of the more immoral ones. Income tax says that you don't own the fruit of your labor, the government does, and they'll let you keep what you want. Now I realize in this time, we just went through the quarantine, the draconian shutdowns, we're at a huge loss of revenue. So I understand overnight we can't just cut the income tax, I get that. But I just want to say from a morality perspective, it's not moral. So what do? We have a huge budget shortfall, our roads are falling apart, and it looks like $5 billion deficit over the next 2 years. It's probably growing, but that's why you don't shut everything down, because then suddenly you don't have a way to pay for things. Something maybe that should have been thought about ahead of time. But at the end of the day, we need, instead of saying, how are we going to pay for this new thing? Everyone here, pretty much everyone here, I'm sure presumably, has to work a job, has a budget, has to pay for things, food, their house, cars, whatever. If you want to buy something new, you don't get to just get a new credit card. Eventually, you're going to run out of line of credit. But for some reason, our government, whenever they want something new, they either raise a tax or they issue a new bond. Well, that's not right, because all the hardworking people here have to balance their own budget. They can only live within their means. We have to live within our means, and we have to cut government down to a reasonable size that can sustain itself.
Thank you, Daren. Adam.
Yeah, I agree with just about everything Daren just said. I wanted to talk about grants. Nobody talked about grants, and that was part of the question, and I've kind of built a good part of my campaign around that. I will say one thing shortly about the income tax, and that is, guess what states don't have an income tax? Florida, Nevada, South Dakota, Texas. Guess which states have better economies than Michigan? Florida, Texas, Nevada, South Dakota. Thank you. I think there's been a very, very clear indication, a long historical indication that income tax does not make a state government stronger, and it most certainly does not make an economy stronger. But back to grants now. Every Republican should be against the grant system in Michigan today. It's crony, it's disgusting. Politicians use it to give favors to their friends, to give favors to big businesses, to make small businesses take it on the shin. And the point that people never seem to realize about grants is that's our money. That isn't their money to give back to us. If we give them $1 and they make us kiss their butt real hard to get a nickel back, and then they give us that nickel and they tell us where we have to spend that nickel, when we have to spend that nickel, how we have to spend that nickel, who we have to hire to spend that nickel, there's something seriously wrong with that picture. I don't want to completely eliminate the grant system all at once, but I think it needs gone. And I will say I am not wagging my finger at anyone that's ever taken a grant, because all of us have taken one in one form or another, whether it was a Pell Grant to get through college or things of that nature. But the fact is, there is a whole business culture today that has built itself around accepting grants, using tax credits, and manipulating the tax system to make themselves rich, and they just happen to always be friends of politicians. So, and I'm disgusted by it, and I'm not going to be quiet about it anymore. So, thank you.
Thank you, Adam. All right, so as I got ahead of myself saying, we're going to let the candidates, everyone's done, right? Someone should just tell me what to do. We're going to let the candidates ask questions to each other. I think we said we're going to give a minute and a half about, so 30 seconds to ask the question, a minute for the person who asked the question. We're going to try to balance them out to the best extent possible. So we're going to start with, who did we start with last time? We're going to start with Andrew, and you can ask a question to anyone up here.
To one person.
You can ask one person or the whole group.
Okay. In the interest of time, I guess I think I'd just ask the same question to everybody and give them all the chance to answer the question. I think everybody up here has identified himself as a Christian, and yet we've also identified that there are battles or fights that we have to have in the legislature. So as a Christian who presumably accepts Christ's commandment to love your neighbor as yourself, how will you go about disagreeing without violating your spiritual commitments?
Thank you. Let's start with Daren.
Yeah, being principled is standing your ground no matter what. And you can be respectful, you can debate, you can try to be persuasive, and that's what I'll do. But that doesn't mean sacrificing principle. Being nice is great on the campaign trail, it's great in pictures, it's great in trying to get people to vote for you. But it's not great when the people of this district need you. They need backbone. And you can have faith and still stand up for things. That's exactly what Jesus Christ did, so.
Thank you, Daren. Adam?
I would just completely echo what Daren just said. Who did Jesus? Who did he leave his strongest criticism for? It was the Pharisees. It was for the government. He called them hypocrites. So I do not believe that it's a violation of Christian faith to fight for the people of your district and to call things a spade when they're a spade. As a matter of fact, I think truth is a big part of faith. And, well, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Adam.
Yeah.
Andy?
Yes, right is right and wrong is wrong. And your religion, your faith is part of that. I don't see where the two conflict with each other.
Thank you, Andy. Daren, a question for candidates or a candidate? Would you like us to go to Adam?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Adam, do you have a question? We have 100 from the audience, so we could go right to that.
100 from the audience?
Seems like it.
Yes, yes. I have a question for Andrew. Andrew, please enlighten us on why Consumers Energy is pouring hundreds of thousands of dollars into your campaign.
Well, I assume that Mayor Stockford is talking about the Citizens for Energizing Michigan's Economy ads and things like that that are airing. I don't know that it's been hundreds of thousands of dollars. If you know that, that's more than I know. Why they're doing it, obviously they think I'm the best candidate. Why they think I'm the best candidate, I don't really know. They didn't tell me. But they've been active in 3 other Republican primaries, and as everybody here probably already knows, also a Democrat primary. I can't tell you why they decided to exercise their First Amendment rights and weigh in this race. So I don't know. What I can tell you is that my campaign is my campaign. I'm very proud to be endorsed by Right to Life of Michigan, proud to be endorsed by Ken Kurtz. I'm proud to be endorsed by the Police Officers Association of Michigan. The principles that I've articulated to you tonight, those are the principles I'm going to fight for. The people in this audience tonight, these are the people I'm going to fight for. So if an outside group decides to spend money because they think I'm going to be a good candidate, that's their right to do. But it has nothing to do with what I'm telling you tonight, and that's the only thing that I'm going to tell you tonight, is that I'm going to fight for this district, and I'm going to fight for the principles that I've already talked about.
Thank you, Andrew.
I think that was good, Andrew. And to be clear, I think you're a good man, Andrew. I do. I think you're a good person. But I also think that's highly suspicious that they would spend that sort of money in this race, because I've never seen it before. Not with Eric, not with Steve Veer, not with Bruce.
Thank you. Andy, do you have a question for...
Respond to that?
Oh, yes. Sorry, Andrew, you get 30 seconds for a response.
Okay, what do you mean by suspicious? If you're accusing me of doing anything that lacks integrity, I took an oath to the Constitution as a Marine Corps officer. I've taken an oath as an officer of the court. I have never had anybody with any knowledge of me or my record in anything in my life show me to be lacking integrity. That's all I can tell you.
Who's the fighter?
Let's leave that there for now.
Yes. Actually, I have a statement, if I can do that instead of a question. I don't see this group up here as opponents. A question or a statement I would want to say is that regardless which one of us you elect as your nominee to go on into November, I would want any one of these gentlemen to be able to ask me a question. If it was what differentiates me, I'm familiar with agriculture. If they have a topic that's in agriculture, I would want them to ask me, and I would step forward to help them. They're not my opponents. They're fellow constituents.
Thank you. Daren, would you like to ask a question now?
Yeah, the little back and forth between Mayor Stockford and Mr. Fink here kind of got the gears churning. So, Mr. Fink, if you don't know anything about the advertising that Consumers Energy is running for you, why did you take $1,500 from them?
I never said I don't know anything about the advertisements that Consumers is running for me, because Consumers isn't running them. A group called Citizens for Energizing Michigan's Economy is running them. Now, some people say that Consumers funds them. Other people say it's dark money and nobody knows who funds them. I don't actually know the answer to that question.
5 seconds on Google will tell you.
My assumption is that Consumers does fund them, but all Consumers has given me is $1,500. I never said that Consumers never gave me $1,500. Again, I assume that they think I'm the best candidate in this race. But that's
They know
all
you're their puppet.
Andrew, continue. 30 more seconds.
Okay, how would they know I'm their puppet when I'm not? Look, If Consumers Energy wants to support my candidacy, just like Right to Life has, and my Right to Life's puppet, Citizens for Traditional Values, and my Citizens for Traditional Values puppet, the Police Officers Association of Michigan, and my the Police Officers puppet, the Property Management Association of Michigan, any number of people who all have different interests. I can't do everything that Americans for Prosperity, who put out a mailing for me today, I can't do everything they want and everything consumers want. And guess what? I don't care, because I don't really care what they want. I'm myself, and I already told you what I'm running for and what I'm going to do. So that's the end of the story.
Thank you, Andrew. We could do another round of questions from the candidates if they have more, or just get too much of that. I hear you. All right, the question I've got the most from probably 10 different people is about abortion. So I'm going to start with one from somebody who wrote a couple different questions related to abortion, and maybe we can do these sort of rapid fire to get a sense of where the candidates are at. So sorry if I don't ask your specific question about abortion. First, when is it okay to abort a baby? Daren.
Never.
Adam.
I'll just echo what Daren said, never.
Andy.
I cannot. I've watched in the courtroom. I've seen children that were hated before they were born, resented that they existed. It doesn't mean that that fetus doesn't have a right to life. I do not wish to overturn Roe versus Wade, but it is hard for me to, when I see parents that can't have children, if we can find a home for them, that's still the best route.
Andrew.
It's not okay to abort babies. That's why Right to Life in Michigan has endorsed me.
Thank you. We had a little bit of discussion about this on my show, and there was, the disagreement that you just saw. I think it was Adam and Andrew pointed out that abortion is illegal in Michigan, and it has been for, since Michigan was admitted into the union. Is there anything we can do in terms of legislation at the state level to push the federal government to overturn Roe v. Wade so that Michigan can enforce its ban on abortions? Adam?
Well, I think President Trump is doing that. He's working hard on appointing Supreme Court justices who are pro-life individuals and who are very conservative. So I think that as far as what we can do at the state legislature level, as we've said before, abortion is illegal in the state of Michigan, but as long as Roe versus Wade stands, then that's the work we need to do. We need to get that overturned. So we need to keep electing presidents who are conservative and who have those values so those presidents can make those appointments to the Supreme Court.
Andy.
I've already spoke on the subject.
Well said, Andy.
Okay. Andrew?
I think probably many of you are aware that that Right to Life was trying to get a dismemberment abortion ban put through as a ballot initiative. That unfortunately didn't work out because they didn't get enough valid signatures, or at least they weren't able to show they got enough valid signatures. But there is a bill in the legislature now that would outlaw dismemberment, or a series of bills that would outlaw dismemberment abortions. I would support those bills. Those bills could be litigated, and you could have a chance to take a case like that to the Supreme Court. But Michigan, for the reasons that Josh already said, is probably not going to be the source of further Supreme Court litigation because there are other states that could do more drastic things than we can do, because we wouldn't want to mess with our fundamental statute that says Michigan is a pro-life state, that abortion is not legal in Michigan. So Michigan's probably not going to be the next place that a Supreme Court case comes out of for abortion litigation. I don't want to say in addition to that, as long as we're assuming that Roe versus Wade prevents us from completely enforcing the law on the books, we have a duty as people who believe that life begins at conception to convince the rest of the people in our country that life begins at conception. And by the way, that should be easy, and I'm going to tell you why. Because it's a scientific fact. If you put there are kids here. I don't want to get too detailed. That's up to the parents. But if you put the genetic material together to create a two-celled human being, you have a two-celled human being. That's just science.
Thank you, Andrew. Are we on the Daren?
So groups that support pro-choice candidates, and even our current governor, have given hundreds of thousands of dollars in support of Republican candidates as well. You can probably guess which one of us it is. Lobbyists choose who they want because they're not worried about someone going up there and shaking things up. I'm not the lobbyist choice, I'm the conservative choice. I'm the most pro-life candidate on this stage. I could care less about an endorsement, because this is the thing, when we talk about we're going to do this legislation or that one, you're still saying, well, it's okay to murder a baby as long as you do it this way. I think murder is immoral, and I think a lot of people here do as well.
Adam, did you have a chance?
I had one thing I wanted to say. I didn't really want to get into this, but my mother had me when she was 18, and a lot of people know that, and it was a tough choice. And she did the right thing, but I'll never forget where I came from. And I will always fight for life because of my experience and because I know it's the right thing to do. So don't look for the lobbyist choice, look where they're spending money. If you want a conservative fighter to defend the unborn, look no further. I'm your guy.
Josh, does Andrew get to answer when he's talking about Andrew? He doesn't say his name, but does he get to answer?
What was the reference?
I didn't hear him say anything.
Who was he talking about when he said that somebody's getting hundreds of thousands of dollars from lobbyists? That sounds like he's talking about me.
I was reading the text. Go ahead.
Yeah.
1 minute.
Okay, I actually don't need a minute. I'm just going to tell you that, again, it's ridiculous and insulting for anybody to say that any group or lobbyist or whatever has bought. Look, Lawrence, who's sitting in the front row here, Lawrence Peter did a great job interviewing all of us, and he said, how are you going to balance the demands of lobbyists and of your constituents? And I'm not. The demands of my constituents are that's the only interest that I'm concerned about. So again, the idea that because some people think I'm the best candidate, some of them have decided to exercise their First Amendment rights, I'm sorry if that bothers you. I can't do anything about it, and I am the best candidate. So they're at least right about that.
Thank you. Adam, did you start this one?
Yes,
You
sir.
did.
Yes, sir.
Do we need another one on that? No? The question was, if we're interested, what have you done in your personal life to advance the pro-life cause? Should we ask that? And I believe we are starting with Andrew this time.
Well, you can start by I had 5 children, so I'm increasing the life in the area anyway. And I guess I should say we've had 5 children. I don't want to assume that we won't have any more. Since I was a kid, I mean, look, when I was a little kid, my dad was a cop, and one of the first places that I saw him in action was when my family was participating with a bunch of other families from our church and other churches and praying outside of abortion clinics, and some folks were even blocking the doors at Planned Parenthood. And he got to be one of the police officers that came and interacted with those folks who we knew, and made sure that they were treated correctly by the police department as peaceful protesters, as any peaceful protester should be. But I was with the people on the sidewalk. I was with the people on the sidewalk as a little kid praying for these people, and ever since then I've been active in the pro-life movement, from volunteering at pro-life medical clinics to participating in roadside rallies and protests, and there's just no issue that's more important. Look, if you're a pro-lifer, it's because you, again, believe that life begins at conception, and that means you think this is a question of life and death. So there's just no more important question.
Thank you, Andrew. Daren.
Yeah, I think I've made my pro-life commitment abundantly clear, but I've been a member of Right to Life. I've attended marches, things like that up in Lansing. So, like I said, if you want a pro-life champion, look no further.
Adam?
Well, besides signing basically every single petition that I've ever come across that was a pro-life petition, this past year I instituted a new program at the city called Mayor for a Day, and what it was we auctioned off the privilege to a young resident of the city to come up to City Hall and to spend the day meeting the police chief, riding in the police car, fire truck, all sorts of fun stuff, which I hope when I'm gone continues. But we auctioned that off this last year, and we gave 100% of the proceeds to a pro-life pregnancy crisis center in Hillsdale. And I hope that that tradition continues even when I'm gone, because I think that's something that that is going to catch more attention every year, and it's something that I think is very interesting. So,
Thank you, Adam. Andy?
I have not been involved.
Thank you. The next question that I've received a lot of is constitutional carry. Michigan is an open carry state. Should Michigan be a constitutional carry state, which means that you can conceal carry without a permit? Daren.
Absolutely. I'm 100% pro Second Amendment. Anyone who's followed me for all of 2 minutes knows that. The right to self-defense is a natural, God-given right that exists as part of your humanity. Yes, you can write it down on paper. That's great. The Second Amendment, the Bill of Rights, codifies this. But it's bigger than that. It's your right to exist on this earth, and I will do everything I can to give everyone here, everyone in our state, the right to protect themselves, whether it be from an invader or from a tyrannical government.
Thank you, Daren. Adam?
oh yeah, same answer as Daren. I'm 100% for constitutional carry. The fact of the matter is, the reason that there's not constitutional carry in the state of Michigan is so the state of Michigan can get their little piece, because they like to license us out our rights. So I'm also, like Daren and probably like the other candidates, 100% Second Amendment, and I will be proud to support constitutional carry and be proud to sponsor it if the need comes up. So,
Thank you, Adam. Andy?
Likewise, I believe in the Second Amendment. I have no desire to enact any law that would make it less than it is now.
Thank you, Andy. Andrew?
Yeah, if Vermont can do constitutional carry, Michigan can do constitutional carry. When I was in college at Hillsdale College studying politics there, I had a scholarship from the National Rifle Association for children of police officers. And the Second Amendment combined with the First Amendment, if you have those two and they're working for you, you have a free country. If you start to impede on any of those rights, then you got a problem. So yes, I'm a strong supporter of the Second Amendment, happy to support constitutional carry.
Thank you, Andrew. Starting with Adam, what does it mean to the candidates to defend the Constitution?
well, first we should talk about what the Constitution actually is. The Constitution is a limitation on government itself. The Bill of Rights and the Constitution are limitations on the government, and the first part of the Constitution, the preamble, and what's past that is an organizing form of the way that our government was designed to be. It's the first place we should always look when we're talking about any issue. We need to look to see if it's in the Constitution, and we need to look and see how it relates to that. Now, I've done that at the city of Hillsdale as much as possible. I've done what I could to stick up for constitutional rights. When I was told that we couldn't hold public meetings because coronavirus, I said no. First of all, the OMA gives people the right to hear and be a personal witness to and participate when their own tax dollars are being spent. But more than that, the Constitution gives people the right to assemble in the First Amendment, as we're all doing here today. So I believe the Constitution is the first place we should always look, and I believe that it's very easy to do because it's only a few pages long, and just about every politician we have in office today is guilty of stepping all over it. So,
Thank you, Adam. Andy?
I agree. Everyone that takes the oath of office swears that they will uphold the Constitution, and I would also do that.
Thank you. Andrew.
Yeah, I've taken an oath to support and defend the Constitution as an officer in the United States Marine Corps. I've taken an oath to support the Michigan Constitution and the United States Constitution as a licensed attorney. I do this for my living. I currently have a case against Governor Whitmer pending where we sued her for violating constitutional rights. I just last week won a case at the Michigan Supreme Court in which we sued Oakland County for violating constitutional rights. Look, a good attorney who understands the Constitution is a law enforcement officer, and the law they're enforcing is the United States Constitution and the Constitution of the state of Michigan. I'm already pretty good at this. I'd be happy to do it as a legislator.
Thank you. Daren.
Well, in my opening statement, I kind of touched on the Constitution a little bit, so I think we all know how much it means to me. But you take an oath to defend it, and the problem is all these politicians, their oath means nothing. They could wipe their rear end with that oath. They don't care at all. And you know, especially on the conservative side of things, people run on, oh, I care about the Constitution. Oh, yeah, I bet. Then they get in office, they don't do anything to fight for our rights. Look at the rhinos, look at the establishment. What have they done to protect your constitutional rights? Again, just think about it. Absolutely nothing. As the mayor said, the Constitution's a limitation on government. But look how big the government's got. So either the Constitution isn't correct or government's not abiding by it. I'd say it's probably the second one. We, the people, need to take back our government. And as your next legislator, I will lead that charge to get our government back.
Thank you, Daren. We have a couple questions returning to COVID, some more specific ones. If the federal government or state government were to mandate the COVID vaccine, would you support that? And we are going to Andy.
I would not.
Thank you.
No.
Daren?
I couldn't hear the question.
Sorry about that. If the federal government were to mandate...
Oh, no, absolutely not.
He heard the word mandate. Adam?
No.
Okay. The mask enforcement question, which became an issue in Hillsdale County during the commencement. Does the state government have the right, or would you as a candidate fight against the state government's attempt to fine businesses for not enforcing mandatory mask wearing? Andrew.
Yeah, I think we at least Adam and I already touched on this. At this point, everybody has the information that I think they need to make wise decisions in their own lives. We all understand that there's a sickness out there, and we all understand how we want to interact with it. If you look around here, some people are wearing masks. Absolutely their right to do it. Many other people aren't. Right now, none of us, I don't think, is even required to by even Governor Whitmer's most extreme interpretation of her emergency powers. But I think people can make informed decisions for themselves, and we don't have to have the government telling everybody how much risk each individual is willing to take.
Thank you, Andrew. Daren?
Yeah, everyone has their own risk tolerance, and it's up to you. You know, if you don't want to die in a car crash, don't get in a car. Same thing with wearing a mask. If you think that's your prerogative, go for it. More power to you. I won't shame you, but the government has no right to tell anyone how to run their own business. And it's interesting. I was going to touch on this, and I didn't, but all these shutdowns, all these mandates, think about who they help out. You ever go by Walmart, Meijer, places like that? Their parking lot's always full. I think they're almost getting more customers since the COVID. But the ma and pa, the local businesses here, the places that make our community so special, are just barely getting by. It's interesting to see who the government works for. And it ain't the small businesses, is it? It's the big corporations, it's the lobbyists, and it isn't us. And even in something like a pandemic, you gotta look at who the favorites are going to. I am tired of government picking winners and losers.
Thank you, Daren. Adam?
I mean, you could see this coming 15 years ago when they instituted a smoking ban in bars and restaurants in Michigan, when they took the ability away from personal business owners to make the decision whether they wanted to allow smoking in their businesses. And a lot of people cheered them on and said, yeah, smoking's disgusting. But I know every bar owner I talked to was like, please don't do that. That's going to kill our business. So the fact of the matter is, this is a slow boil. This is just a step on a very large staircase that we've been ascending or just actually descending for a long time now. The most recent mask mandate, it's I truly believe that it's unconstitutional, and I truly believe, as all the other candidates up here seem to, that masks are a personal decision. You shouldn't shame somebody if they want to wear one, if it makes them comfortable, and you also shouldn't whack your finger at somebody that doesn't wear one and call them selfish or reckless or...
Thank you, Adam. Andy, same question.
It's been pretty well covered. I think it's the individual's right, whether they wear one or don't wear one.
On the same topic, we can maybe keep this to 30 seconds. Should schools open in the fall? Should they open with or without restrictions? Are we starting with Daren now?
Yeah, they should open back up. I mean, at what point do we just sacrifice? It goes back to what I was saying before, sacrificing the young for the old, but we can't just sacrifice children's education over this thing that has a 1% or less a cause of death. And if they're not gonna let schools open up, at least give us our tax money back. But it's just absurd. It's just absurd that we would just cancel all sports, all schools over this. It's time to get back to normal and quit living in fear.
Thank you. Adam.
My candidacy is all about local control, and I believe that local school boards can make that decision for themselves. And I believe some will be comfortable doing that, and others maybe wouldn't be comfortable doing that. But the fact of the matter is, Lansing should not have cookie cutter legislation that covers the entire state of Michigan and makes us follow the same mandates as, say, Grand Rapids. So I think here in Hillsdale County, I think the local school districts would be very happy to get back to school, and I think it would be beneficial to our children. So,
thank you. Andy?
In regards to the 58th district, I think we're healthy enough that we should open for business everything, schools, shops, everything. And if you're afraid of it, then you can stay home. You don't have to go. We're not making people go. If we have choice of homeschools and other things, so let people decide, but open up everything.
Thank you, Andy. Andrew?
Yeah, when the shutdown hit us, it hit us pretty hard. I'm a small business owner. I have employees who we had to figure out how we were going to try to keep on payroll, keep their families going, while at the same time we became surprise homeschoolers. And both my wife Lauren and I were raised homeschooled, and neither one of us thought we ever wanted to homeschool our kids. Turns out we were right about that. And until I see more evidence that it's dangerous to the children themselves, I think that we can come up with a way to get teachers, administrators, whatever level of safety protocols are necessary to make sure that they're not at any kind of unnecessary risk. I don't think they would be, given that waiters and waitresses and people at car shops and everything never stopped working, or at least have been back to work for a long time. So I think we can make it work, and as a dad of 5 kids who doesn't feel like homeschooling them, I really hope we do.
Thank you, Andrew. One more question on this. This was easily the most covered topic in the questions here. Oh no, I lost it. What have you done personally to fight against the COVID restrictions? And we're starting with Adam.
thank you. I've done just about as much as I could. I have gone to just about every single business owner in Hillsdale, met with them personally, and discussed how it affected them. I went on national news and told the whole world that the city of Hillsdale was open for business. I talked personally with the police officers in the city of Hillsdale and told them we were not going to enforce the shutdown, which we did not. Like I said, I'm at the point right now where I don't feel like the courts are the proper avenue for this. I don't feel like sending another one more angry letter to the governor demanding that we open up is going to help anything. I think it's time for people to be responsible for our own action. It's time to take this all into our own hands. And I tell everybody, as the mayor right now, everyone, open up your businesses. Do what you have to do to survive. You have a right to it, and the city of Hillsdale will not bother you.
Thank you, Adam. Andy?
As I said earlier, open up everything.
Thank you. Andrew?
Yeah, I've already mentioned this a couple of times, but one of the actions that I took was putting together a legal team to sue Governor Whitmer over her unconstitutional shutdown orders. I've also become a captain in the Unlock Michigan petition, and I'm sorry, that's not an angry letter. That's a legal petition where if there are enough signatures, the legislature can, without Governor Whitmer's consent, change the law to eliminate the 1945 Emergency Powers of the Governor Act, which would sap her of the court victories that she's had and make her work with our legislature. We have 110 representatives and 38 senators, and the governor has told them their input's not necessary. We have a right to have our voices heard through our representatives, and eliminating the 1945 law will destroy the last fig leaf she has.
Thank you, Andrew. Daren?
Thank you. First off, I'd like to say I was the first person in this race to speak out against the unconstitutional shutdowns, even when a lot of people were still in fear and this seemed a lot worse than it is, because my principal told me this is wrong. It doesn't matter how deadly it is. She doesn't have the authority to do that. So what have to answer your question though, what have I done? Well, I was part of Stand Up Michigan. This was a petition. There's a lot of petitions going around at this point in time to amend the Constitution, not just to repeal those laws that she's abusing, but also to make it so we never again can this happen. And I didn't just get on board with this 2 weeks before the election. I had this months ago. We had events out in Sturgis. We rose money for local businesses. We had people out there cutting hair. Donations were taken. Why? Because these are small business people who need the money to put food on the table, to pay the bills, and I was on board leading that charge the whole way.
Thank you, Daren. Right, time to move on from COVID. What are your thoughts on windmills, alternative energies, and should they be subsidized by the state of Michigan? And we're starting with Andy.
Thank you. Alternative energy is certainly with us and active in our own districts. We have windmills going up in Moscow and Wheatland townships now. Personally, I miss the coal-fired power plant in Litchfield that helped the farm area. It provided sulfur for our crops, and the lime that was used there in the scrubber was certainly beneficial to the local farmers. Coal-fired plants are not that bad. They're well managed, and it provides other resources that are used in the area. Our district's ideal for a coal-fired plant, but that's not the legislation that's been approved, and the solar panels and the windmills certainly are entering our district. Say the question again, I've got off.
What are your thoughts on windmills, other renewable energies? Should the state of Michigan subsidize them, support them in any way?
In this district, we've had the oil exploration in the past several years, and that certainly brought a lot of dollars into our district. And I will say I visited with the Moscow General Store owner, and she's elated that the windmill project is going there. She's doing more business than she's ever done. The crews that are putting those up and so on. It has created jobs and stimulated business. Do I think that it should be subsidized? Not really. I like to see things that pay for themselves.
That's time. Thank you. And Andrew.
The most frequent question that I get about windmills has to do with whether there needs to be some kind of legislation to impact whether they're going to be present in anybody's municipality. And as far as I'm concerned, it's like any other land use issue. Municipalities are capable of regulating land use issues. They're doing it all over the place. A whole string of townships, both in Branch and Hillsdale counties, have recently updated their wind ordinances. I think they're competent to do it, and so I would leave that question to the locals. Whether we should subsidize wind energy or any other particular kind of energy, other than the federal government's need to have adequate energy in place in case we have a national security emergency, I don't really think there's any role for the government in dictating what kind of energy gets put out, and anticipating a suggestion that maybe I would listen to one company rather than everybody else in my district. I wouldn't, and I wouldn't change my mind based on what any power company thinks about it.
Thank you, Andrew. Daren?
Yeah, so subsidies on the face are immoral. It's taking money from us, from the taxpayers, to prop up something else. And anytime you see subsidies, you know who's behind it. It's the lobbyists. It's whoever can get those special favors from Lansing. So I oppose subsidies for windmills and everything else. But to the windmill question, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. They cost millions of dollars, I think $22-23 million. They only last 20 years. They don't pay for themselves. And there's a lot of unknown health side effects too that the science isn't complete yet. I mean, if a municipality wants to do it, maybe that's their thing, but at the state level, I would definitely not be pushing that. I would never be pushing for subsidies for it, because if something can't sustain itself fair and square by providing a valuable good or service to people, then it shouldn't be propped up. That's just how it is. So if you have a good product or service, you should be able to sell it and be profitable without stealing money from the taxpayers to stay in business.
Thank you, Daren. Adam.
Good answer, Daren. Yeah, subsidies are wrong. They're essentially welfare that go to big corporations and politicians' friends, as we've stated up here very many times. We keep using the word legislation to talk about the windmill issue, but the fact of the matter is it's not legislation. It did not come from the legislature. These mandates come from the Department of Environmental Quality, which is a appointed alphabet agency in the state of Michigan, which is unaccountable to nobody, which is funded by the legislature. So as far as how I personally feel about windmills, I think they're big, ugly, hulking, inefficient things that have been mandated by an alphabet agency. And I think that the legislature could actually do something about it if they'd grow a pair and they'd start pulling money away from these alphabet agencies, who are the people who are really making all the decisions in Lansing. So.
Is that everyone on that? A couple people have asked specific questions about jobs, but I'll throw it to everyone. What is your current job?
My current job?
Yes.
Campaigning for the state representative.
Thank you. Andrew?
I wish I could only answer that because it would be less stressful, but I have a very busy law practice, and I practice law with my family. We're called Fink.
Thank you, Andrew. Daren?
Real estate, I'm with Century 21 here in Hillsdale and Branch counties.
Thank you, Daren. Adam?
You mean besides being the mayor?
I suppose so.
I'm doing project work right now in the staffing industry, which I've worked for almost a decade now for a company out of Jackson.
Thank you. Another one I've received a few times. Will you support efforts to recall or impeach Governor Whitmer if you were elected to the legislature? Andrew?
One of the problems I had with Nancy Pelosi's impeachment crusade last year was that she knew she didn't have the votes in the Senate to get a conviction, and yet she wasted all of our time and the government's money on the impeachment process anyway. So unless I thought there was some chance of getting a conviction in the Senate, where you, just like in the federal government, you need 2/3, and there's no indication that any Democrats would support it, I think it would probably be a total waste of money, even if Governor Whitmer, by contracting with a Democrat firm to do the contract tracing or whatever else, has done things that merit investigation. So again, unless I think it's going to be successful, I think that it would probably be a waste of your money to do a fruitless impeachment effort. A recall effort, I would look at somewhat similarly and say, if she's going to win and be emboldened, then that would probably not be the best idea, but I would vote against her.
Thank you, Andrew. Daren?
Yeah, one thing I wanted to touch on in my opening that I ran out of time for was I'm always willing to take the tough stand, and that's what I pride myself on. When it comes to the governor, I talked a little bit earlier about taking an oath, and that should mean something. Why doesn't an oath mean anything to anyone anymore? She takes an oath to uphold both the state and federal constitutions. If she violates that, she needs out of there. She broke her oath. It's that simple. The people of this state deserve the chance, now that she's broken her oath, it's not just another election, it's saying, is what she did egregious enough to take her out of there? And I say absolutely yes, because she violated her oath of office, and I think the people of the state would agree with me.
Thank you, Daren. Adam?
Yeah, I hate following Daren. I'm actually the only endorsement I got was from the group right now, Impeach Whitmer, which is trying to push the charge to impeach her. And I agree with Daren, whether it's a losing fight or not, lots of things are losing fights. What if our forefathers in 1776 would have said, oh, this is a losing fight, let's not even try?
Thank you, Adam. Andy.
Yes. One thing I would suggest getting behind is this Unlock Michigan. I do have some of the copies of those petitions, and it doesn't apply to just this governor. That's to eliminate a law that she has been standing on or using that to continue to do the executive orders. But it would apply to the next governor, the next governor, the next governors to eliminate the law of that year that allows her to continue to do it.
Let's ask that to everyone then now. Andrew, do you support repealing the 1945 Emergency Management Act?
Yes.
Daren?
Yes.
Adam?
Both emergency management acts I want to see repealed. The governor doesn't need that sort of power.
Yes or no question to Daren, do you support the death penalty?
No.
Adam?
Yes, I do.
Andy?
Yes, I do.
Andrew?
I don't have a principled objection to the death penalty, but Michigan's never had the death penalty, and that's not something that I think we need to spend our time worrying about right now.
Thank you. It's 8:30. Should we ask one more? Thank you. Does the Republican Party represent conservatism? What is conservatism trying to preserve? Two questions that I've gotten multiple times, and I think we're starting with Adam now.
Yes, I guess it's me. The Republican Party, all Republicans should be conservative, but all Republicans are not conservative. What it means to be a conservative is that you believe in the founding documents. You believe that the founders of this country devised the most perfect form of government possible while taking human nature into consideration as well. And no other country in the world has topped it, including every country that's tried to institute socialism, fascism. I mean, bureaucratically speaking, fascism works great, but it stomps all over the rights of minorities. So we've got the best system in this country. There is a whole culture, a very strong, powerful, aggressive culture that is trying to undo it. And what it means to be a conservative is that you'll fight to do whatever you can to hold on to those founding principles.
Thank you, Adam. Andy?
Yes, we do want to remain a republic. That is our foundation.
Thank you, Andy. Andrew? Yes, and is the Republican Party representing conservative values?
Well, yeah, in America, conservatives are trying to conserve the founding. This is what I talked about at the very beginning. I mean, what is it that we're trying to pass on to the next generation? It's a commitment to the principles of the Declaration of Independence. It's a commitment to the structure of our Constitution, allowing us to operate as free and equal citizens, working out our problems amongst each other, and living in communities where we can earn a living, respecting the rights of others, and expecting the government to protect our rights. We have that heritage. I don't think conserving it is all we have to do right now. I think there's a certain amount of restoration we have to do of that heritage. A recommitment to those principles is what we really need. And if we do that, then that's what we ought to be conserving. And I guess what conservatives ought to be conserving now is the memory of those principles and trying to get them reinstituted. Whether our party is the best vessel for it, look, I think this is the greatest political party that's ever existed. This party was founded by Abraham Lincoln and the folks who founded Hillsdale College, a couple miles behind your candidates here. And the reason they started that party was because they thought that each man had the right to the fruit of his own labor, which obviously slaves were being denied at the time, and that America ought to be a strong and independent nation, not dependent on other foreign powers. I think that's still a message that you can send through the Republican Party, and so I'm proud to be a member of this party.
Thank you, Andrew. Daren?
Yeah, so conservatism to me is, as others have said, preserving the founding of our country. And but in terms of the Republican Party has totally lost its way. And I alluded to this in my intro. The party doesn't have any principles. It doesn't stand for any. Yeah, the platform technically does, but the people in office don't represent the people that vote them in, and that's a big issue. That's why I'm running. The people in office for Republican Party are wildly farther left than their constituents, and that's an issue. right here when they're running, oh, I'm so conservative, I'm pro-life, I'm pro-Second Amendment, less government, less taxes. They get up there and forget all about it. We need to change the party, and I'm running here to change the party from within, to get back to our founding principles, the old right, Robert Taft, those great people. But the Republican Party right now, not so hot, and it's the establishment pushing the status quo, same old, more taxes, more regulation, less freedom, not standing up on the social issues, and we're all getting screwed for it. So we need to stand up and take our party back and use that to take our government back.
Thank you, Daren. Andy, do you support the national popular vote movement? Maybe I should define that for everyone. It's a package of legislation that would bind Michigan's Electoral College delegates to whatever candidate wins the national popular vote. Andy?
Definitely not. All rural districts would suffer from that.
Thank you, Andy. Andrew?
I would not support the national popular vote at all.
Thank you, Andrew. Daren?
The United States is a republic, and every state is guaranteed Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution, a Republican form of government. So the idea that anyone would push this national popular vote is completely contrary to the principles our country was founded on. But here's the interesting thing. A lot of Republicans are supporting this. That's a shock to me when I found that out. It probably is a lot of people here, too. So, I'm glad to see everyone up here so far has said they're against it, because we have Republicans in our state, our elected officials supported it. So I hope everyone's being completely truthful here where they stand on it, but I stand against it. I don't know why a Republican would ever vote for it, because we would have Democrat president every single time. California and New York would determine every single presidential election. So I stand 100% against it, and I hope everyone else here makes sure to do the same.
Thank you, Daren. Adam?
Yeah, you
Thank
that
you.
guy over here. Yeah, you can't be a conservative and be for abolishing the Electoral College. And if any elected officials, Republican or Democrats, are saying that they are for abolishing the Electoral College or have put forth legislation or even wanted to start the conversation on that, then those politicians are not conservatives. So,
Thank you, Adam. Licensing and regulation. Should jobs such as cutting hair be regulated and licensed by the state of Michigan? Andrew?
No, I think our licensing system is more or less out of control. If you just compare the different states and what they license and what they don't license, you'll see there's really no rhyme or reason to any of those regulations. Obviously, there are some professions that most of us are going to expect will always be licensed, like being a doctor or being an attorney. But something like cutting hair, I mean, for one thing, to be a cosmetologist, you need 1,600 hours of training. To be a barber, you need 2,000 hours of training. What's the difference? Pretty much whether you can use a straight razor. So we're more or less lost when it comes to licensing and in desperate need of reform.
Thank you, Andrew. Daren?
Yeah, we're way too overregulated. And you look at it, it seems like, oh, we need it to keep the public safe. Well, that's not really how it works. How it works is it's protectionism. It makes it harder to get into an industry. So people get in an industry, and then I want job security, so I'm going to make a ton of regulations so that no one else can get here. Now I've got a monopoly. That's the problem. Once again, who is it? It's people who are given out favors by the people in government to get stiffer regulations, to protect themselves, to make their own pockets fat. The typical players, the lobbyists, the special interests, they love their regulations. And it ain't to protect us, it's to protect them and their pocketbook.
Thank you, Daren. Adam?
oh yeah, I think both Andrew and Daren expressed the state is extremely overregulated. The licensing system in Michigan is very much just like the constitutional carry that we just spoke of. It's all about the state of Michigan getting their piece. So I think it needs a complete overhaul.
Andy?
There are plenty of licenses, more than we need.
Should any jobs be regulated and licensed by the state of Michigan? Let's do that one more time real quick.
Yeah, again, I mean, the jobs that are most traditionally licensed, I would need to see more. I mean, look, what are you trying to do when you make something licensed? You're trying to guess basic. You're trying to determine whether a front-end requirement like a license for something like an attorney or a doctor is going to prevent more harm than what we call a tort system, or where you can basically sue somebody who screws something up. When you're talking about a relationship like being a doctor or being an attorney, people have such a level of trust in those relationships that it would take a much bigger, it would be a higher hurdle to determine that you don't want to license those things than, again, being a cosmetologist or a barber or any other number of kind of jobs that we all interact with almost every single day. So I'm not going to say today that I would eliminate licenses for those most classically licensed professions like medicine and law, but other than that, I'd be open to talking about probably any of them.
Thank you. Daren?
Yeah, I don't think taking all licenses away right now is something on the table, so it's not the most realistic question. But one thing to think about is, what is licensing? It's a monopoly. And I'm not against licensing per se, but the idea that only one authority has the ability to grant it, what does that do? It gives a small group of people power over everyone else's livelihood and their ability to practice a particular trade. So what I think would be more moral, if we want licensing as a way to certify someone, is to have different agencies, private sector agencies, that go based on merit and go based on reputation. Because at the end of the day, you know, I said the same thing to someone the other day during the shutdown. I said, you've had the same person cut your hair for 20 years, yeah. If they lost their license tomorrow, would you stop going there? Well, heck no, they give me a great haircut. The license, the piece of paper, has nothing to do with the quality of their service. And people need to stop relying on the government to tell them who's who. They need to be vigilant in their own life and responsible for themselves. And the reason our society is degrading so much, and this goes back to our family structure and everything else, is because people think it's the government's job to take care of them. Well, we need to bring back families, churches, charities, and community. That's their job.
Thank you, Daren. Adam?
Yeah, I guess brain surgeons should probably have to have a license. Besides that, I don't see any real practical purpose for it, no.
Thank you. Andy?
Yeah, to go back to something simple, I know that our county building inspector has a huge issue with unlicensed contractual work in the county. There are safety items and some things that do need oversight, but in general, we have too many licenses, too many taxes, too many fees.
Thank you. This is a very nice question. The country is very divided right now. How will each of the candidates work effectively with opposition in Lansing? Daren?
All right, thank you. So, to me, it's about building coalitions on certain issues. So, to me, everyone always says, well, how are you going to get this done with your principles or whatever? Well, I'll sacrifice principle for nothing. There's nothing worth getting done that you sacrifice principle to do. But there's people with different views on different issues, and you can build a coalition. Say criminal justice reform, you could work with Democrats on that. There's other things in a Republican majority, you'd work more with Republicans, maybe get some crossovers. So it's about looking at the issue, looking at who's committed to that issue, and working on that, but not sacrificing principle in the process.
Thank you, Daren. Adam?
We all have to work with people we don't like. So if anybody has a problem with that, they need to grow up. I've spent the last 10 years on city council working with people who were very close friends of mine, and working with a few individuals that I really didn't care for very much. But it doesn't get in the way that things need to get done. There's a little something called common courtesy. We should all have it. We should all be polite to each other when we're in a working environment. And that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you, Adam. Andy?
Yes, it brings to mind a discussion I had with Bruce Caswell, and asking him, what should I take up there with me? He says, well, if you want any friends, take your dog with you. And it just made me think of it. I do think that you work with who's there. There's going to be a third of the legislators that'll be new. And there'll be lots of new hot ideas to go up and tip the boat over and change things. I'm rational and a realist. I don't think you can tip the boat over and make progress. I hope some others do, and I hope I can mediate between them and that we can accomplish something.
Thank you, Andy. Andrew.
I mean, disagreement is part of life. It's certainly part of political life. And so being able to work with people on one issue that you disagree with on another issue, if you can't do that, you're in the wrong profession.
Thank you. 8:45. Should we still keep it? Do the candidates support a part-time legislature? Adam.
Yes, I support a part-time legislature. If a state the size of Texas can have a part-time legislature and manage to get stuff done, so can Michigan. Just while I have the microphone, the state legislature in Michigan is the 4th highest paid legislature in the United States. That was after they cut their own wages about 10, 15 years ago, which Bruce Caswell was one of the people that led the charge on that. And I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of Bruce for that. But yeah, Lansing is not good at very much at all. Government in general is not efficient. It's not designed to be efficient. It doesn't do things well, so it should be doing a lot less things. And one way that we accomplish that is to make the legislature a part-time affair and make when legislators are up there passing laws, make them have to come home and live under those same laws and work under those same laws.
Thank you, Adam. I'll add that to the question then. Should we also reduce their pay?
Yes, don't forget, I didn't get to answer that. Yes, we should reduce their pay.
That was in there somewhere. Andy.
Yes, I am in favor of part-time legislature, and it is to reduce the cost of government. I don't think we would see less laws or less accurate laws. We seem to do our best work under pressure towards a deadline. If you have 2 months to do it, you won't get it done until the last 2 days. If you've got 2 weeks to get it done, you'll get it done the last 2 days.
Thank you, Andy.
The concept of a part-time legislature doesn't bother me, but I will point out a state like Texas has an extremely powerful governor, and I don't think most of us are really enjoying an extremely powerful governor right now. So if you don't have your legislature there, the full-time people are going to have more power. That includes the bureaucrats, by the way. So if you have a part-time legislature and full-time bureaucrats and full-time lobbyists, who knows more about what's going on? I'm not against the part-time legislature. It's not a problem for me, but it is a trade-off. I mean, so having a full-time legislature, you get certain benefits. Having a part-time legislature, you get other benefits. So you have to weigh those things. And until we have better control over our bureaucrats, I probably wouldn't support a part-time legislature. But I could imagine supporting it under other circumstances. In terms of cutting the pay, I mean, the pay right now is like $72,000 a year plus $1,000 a month or so for expenses. That is a reduction from where it's been. I don't think there's any magic number. If there's a reason to cut the pay, I'm open to that.
Thank you, Andrew. Daren.
Yeah, I fundamentally disagree that there's not an advantage to a part-time legislature. Our country is designed to have a citizen legislature that goes, as the mayor said, home and lives under the same laws that they enact. It's we the people, not we the government. And that's the whole thing. That's the problem with both Republicans and Democrats, is they've forgotten the role of government. They're supposed to work for us. If I'm up there, I'm working for you guys, not to toot my own horn, collect a salary, and sit around all day and do nothing. And eat hors d'oeuvres or whatever else. But at the end of the day, they work for us. Part-time legislature is how it should be. A citizen legislature. And yeah, the salary should be cut. $72,000, it's out of touch to say that is an average salary around here. I mean, normal people who live in this district know the average person here ain't making $72,000 a year. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I don't know the figure either, but maybe the average or median salary. So it'd probably be somewhere in, the mid-40s? That's fair. But, and if it's part-time, why are you making $40,000 a year to work part-time? I don't know many people who do that either. If there's a job like that, sign me up.
If you do not win the 58th District's Republican nomination, will you do everything you can to support the eventual nominee? And will you remain in this district in the future to support future candidates?
You're looking at me, so I assume I'm in line.
Yes, Andy.
The answer would be yes. My roots are here. I've lived here my entire life. I intend to stay here. I'm not the first generation to be here, nor am I going to be the last. This is home. And I have, I want to be your representative. I don't, haven't really thought that much about it, but I'm sure that that entrepreneurship in my mind, that there's several other jobs I can be good at. So I will be here.
Thank you, Andy. Andrew?
Yeah, I intend to support all Republicans this fall. It's the party that I've been active in since I was a teenager. I'm not going to change that just because I lose an election. So yeah, I'm going to support the Republican nominee in this race. Whether I'm going to stay in this district, look, win or lose, this is where my wife and I are raising our kids. We already had a child at Hillsdale Hospital a couple of years ago. We have our kids in school here. We're members of St. Paul's Church. This is the second time we've been members of St. Paul's Church. Unlike the other candidates here, I didn't grow up here, but I've lived here 3 times and have loved every minute of being here. And my wife and I made a choice to raise our kids here. That wasn't dependent on the idea that I was going to move here and run for office. We moved here to raise our kids and open a law office, and that's what we're doing.
Thank you, Andrew. Daren?
Yeah, of course I'll stay here. This is my home where I've lived my whole life, so that's pretty obvious. But in terms of supporting the candidate, you know, your reputation is an interesting thing, and it's an extremely important thing. And if you throw your name behind something, that better mean something to you. You know, nowadays someone will endorse someone, not think twice about it, throw a sign in the yard, they don't even know who they are, what they're running for. I don't look at things that way. If I back someone, that means I believe in this person. I think they share at least a lot of the same principles. And guess what? Having an R next to your name doesn't mean squat to me. Look at what the Republicans in Congress are doing. Most of them are awful. Yes, I'm a Republican because there's more good Republicans than the 0 good Democrats, but it's, you know, it's the lesser of 2 evils. So I will support, I know Mayor Stockford's principles. If he wins, he's got my support, unless he does something to really, you know, some scandal comes out or whatever. You know, he's got the other 2 guys I don't know as well. But if I sat down and talked to him, I'll give him a chance to be open-minded. But just because you have R next to your name doesn't mean you're getting my support. You have to have the principles of limited government, of defending the Constitution, of being pro-life, of course, and of fighting for us and not fighting for the lobbyists. So, and not raising taxes. So if you're committed to all those things, we sit down and talk when you guys win, I'll have your back, absolutely. But if not, I'm not throwing my name out there for nothing.
Thank you, Daren. Adam?
Yeah, I would just echo what Daren said. Whoever wins up here, they have my support. But that does not mean for 1 second that if it's not me, or even if it is me, because there's been a few things that I've done that I'm ashamed of. So, but if they do if I don't win, somebody else wins, and they do something that I think is unethical, or I think doesn't align with the conservative principles that we all up here claim to have, I won't be afraid to call them out on that. And sometimes that hasn't made me friends, but that's okay.
Thank you, Adam. I'll give the candidates 2 minutes to give their closing remarks and make their final pitch to the voters. Thank you all for being here. This was wonderful turnout, and thank you for the candidates and their families. Can't imagine how stressful this is on all of them, so we really appreciate that. And we'll start with Andy. Yes. Feel free to come up to the podium if you'd like.
I don't need the podium, but I will stand. Thank you again for coming tonight. This is something that I learned when I was 10 years old, and it seems more true to me now that I understand it now better than I did then. It's the 4-H pledge. And I pledge my head to clear thinking, my heart to greater loyalty, my hands to better service, and my health to better living for my district, my community, and my country. Thanks for being here tonight.
Round of applause for Andy. Thank you for running. Andrew.
My entire adult life, I've been committed to both defending and advancing conservative causes. I already told you, as a student at Hillsdale College where I studied politics, I had a scholarship from the National Rifle Association. I didn't get that because I'm a big hunter. I got that because I well articulated what it means to have a meaningful right to keep and bear arms. When I went to law school, I was president of the Federalist Society and joined the Marine Corps. The reason I'm telling you that is to lay out that I care more about service than about making money. I could have gone and worked as an attorney in a big city like almost all my peers did, and absolutely fine with me that they did that. But I felt that I was called to make sure that they were able to do that you're all able to do the work that you do every day as a service member. And that's how I look at this race now. I want to make sure that my kids inherit a better Michigan and a better America from my generation than the one we have right now. That's what I'm committed to doing. I've already laid out for you my pro-life principles, my pro-Second Amendment and gun rights principles, my commitment to limited government and skepticism of top-down solutions from anyone from Governor Whitmer to Washington, D.C. That's what I want to do, and I'd be honored to represent Hillsdale and Branch County as the next state representative from the 58th District.
Thank you. Round of applause for Andrew. Thank you for running.
Let's give a round of applause for Joshua Palladino. Thanks for having us. He's a cool guy. Don't take that from my time, okay? So yeah, you got to hear what my principles are, what I stand for, and I said at the beginning, and hopefully I prove my case here to you tonight, that I'm the most conservative, most qualified, most principled candidate in this race for the 58th District. I'm running to give us something different. I've said this before to other people, I haven't said it to this group. What do you want the world to look like for your kids, for your grandchildren to grow up in? We all know what the socialist Democrats are up to, and I don't think anyone here wants that for the next generations. But what about the Republican rhinos? Aren't they just as complicit? Maybe they're not out there thumping marks around, but what have they done to stop it? They always try to scare you into donating to their campaigns and voting for them in office because this year is going to be the biggest election ever. Every 2 and 4 years, it seems to be the biggest election ever. Well, elections are important. I'm not downplaying that. But we can't keep voting the same establishment rhinos that talk a big game and do nothing but shill out favors for their buddies in Lansing. If you want the next generation and the one after that to look different, to at least start getting through, we got a mess, okay? It's not gonna happen overnight. And I wanna say this, anyone who promises you the world delivers you nothing. So I'm not promising you that. But I am promising you I will always be willing to take that hard stand. And I'm only one person, but if we get more people up there, not Republican rhinos, but conservatives, willing to take that hard stand, we can start moving things in the right direction. That's what I'm committed to. If you're on board with that, choose wisely August 4th.
Thank you, Daren. Round of applause for Daren. Adam.
I mean, look, we're at a place in time that we never thought we'd be at. We're at a place right now where I think we all understand very clearly that the status quo isn't working. I agree with a lot of what Daren said, and I agree it because I've seen it personally. Look at what they told us in D.C. Republicans said, give us a majority in Congress, and you'll be and see what we'll accomplish. So what did we do? We gave them a majority. We gave them the House of Representatives. We gave them the Senate. We gave them the presidency. We gave them all the power in government. They couldn't even repeal Obamacare. They couldn't even accomplish that. Look at the Republicans in Michigan. They had a supermajority from the Rick Schneider years. We had the state house. We had the state senate. We had the governor's office. We had the majority on the Supreme Court. And look at what they accomplished. This should be the richest state in the whole United States. We've got the best agricultural land in the whole world right here. We've got the most fresh water in the world right here. We've got the most precious resources in the world right here. This should be a rich state, but because of regulation and because of cronyism and because of elitism, we're a bunch of poor, unfortunate souls. So I'm the one person sitting, well, excuse me, I forget that Andy, not because I forget about Andy, but because he jumped in the race late. But you don't have to guess where I stand on things. I told you where I stood on things when I ran for mayor, and haven't I been all right, guys? Have I let you down? I know I've made mistakes, and I've owned up to every single one of them, and I always will. And like I said, there's things I ought to be ashamed of myself from, and the reason that I win residents over is because when I do something that I should be ashamed of, I go to them and I say, I messed up, guys, sorry. I'll try not to make the same mistake again. But if you think I've done a good job on mayor, give me the benefit of the doubt and send me to Lansing. And I'll do what I can do up there. But I think we're at a moment in history, as I said at the beginning of this, where we need to realize that the status quo hasn't worked for us in Michigan. We got to start doing things differently, and we need to send different people there. And if they're
big mouth jackasses like me, so be it. Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. A round of applause for all the candidates. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. Are the candidates willing to stick around to shake hands and talk to people? All right. Looks like you can come up and chat with them. Yeah. Okay. Thank you all for coming.